Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. Questioner. As we begin Book 3 of the Law of One, there are a couple of questions, one of fairly non-transient importance, and one which I consider to be a bit transient, but I feel obligated to ask because of communication with others. First, just clearing up final points about harvest for my friend name. And I was wondering if there is a supervision over the harvest, and if so, why this supervision is necessary, and how it works since an entity's harvest ability is the violet ray. Is it necessary for entities to supervise the harvest, or is it automatic? Could you answer this, please? Ra. I am Ra. In time of harvest there are always harvesters. The fruit is formed, as it will be, but there is some supervision necessary to ensure that this bounty is placed, as it should be without the bruise, or the blemish. There are those of 3 levels watching over harvest. The first level is planetary, and that which may be called angelic. This type of guardian includes the mind-body-spirit complex totality, or higher self of an entity, and those interplane entities which have been attracted to this entity through its inner seeking. The second class of those who ward this process are those of the Confederation, who have the honored duty of standing in the small places at the edge of the steps of light love, so that those entities being harvested will not, no matter how confused or unable to make contact with their higher self, stumble and fall away for any reason other than the strength of the light. These Confederation entities catch those who stumble and set them right so that they may continue into the light. The third group watching over this process is that group you call the Guardians. This group is from the octave above our own and serves in this manner as light bringers. These guardians provide the precise emissions of light love and exquisitely fastidious disseminations of discrimination so that the precise light love vibration of each entity may be ascertained. Thus the harvest is automatic in that those harvested will respond according to that which is unchangeable during harvest. That is the violet ray emanation. However, these helpers are around to ensure proper harvesting so that each entity may have the fullest opportunity to express its violet ray selfhood. Questioner. Thank you. This next question I feel to be a transient type of question, however, it has been asked me by one whom I have communicated with who has been involved intensely in the UFO portion of the phenomenon. If you deem it too transient or unimportant we'll skip it, but I have been asked how is it possible for the craft of, shall we say, the 4th density, to get here and that it seems that as you approach the velocity of light mass approach is infinite. We have talked about the increase of spiritual mass, and it was just a question as to how this transition from very distant planets is made in craft, and my question would be why craft would be necessary at all? This is not an important question. Ra. I am Ra. You have asked several questions. We shall respond in turn. Firstly, we agree that this material is transient. Secondly, those for the most part coming from distant points, as you term them, do not need craft, as you know them. The query itself requires understanding which you do not possess. We shall attempt to state what may be stated. Firstly, there are a few third-density entities who have learned how to use craft to travel between star systems while experiencing the limitations you now understand. However, such entities have learned to use hydrogen in a way different from your understanding now. These entities still take quite long durations of time, as you measure it, to move about. However, these entities are able to use hypothermia to slow the physical and mental complex processes in order to withstand the duration of flight. Those such as are from Sirius are of this type. There are 2 other types. One is the type which, coming from 4th, 5th, or 6th density in your own galaxy, has access to a type of energy system which uses the speed of light as a slingshot and thus arrives where it wishes without any perceptible time elapsed in your view. The other type of experience is that of 4th, 5th, and 6th densities of other galaxies, and some within your own galaxy which have learned the necessary disciplines of personality to view the universe as one being, and, therefore, are able to proceed from locus to locus by thought alone, materializing the necessary craft, if you will, to enclose the light body of the entity. Questioner. I assume that that latter type is the type that we experience with most of our landings from the Orion group. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. The Orion group is mixed between the penultimate and the latter groups. Questioner. Why is a vehicle necessary for this transition? When you, as Ra, went to Egypt earlier you used bell-shaped craft, but you did this by thought. Can you tell me why you used a vehicle rather than just materializing the body? Ra. I am Ra. The vehicle or craft is that thought form upon which our concentration may function as motivator. We would not choose to use our mind-body-spirit complexes as the focus for such a working. Questioner. Thank you. I am going to make a statement. I'm sure I'm somewhat off with this. In trying to, it's a very difficult question to ask for me, because I don't really know what I'm talking about. But it seems that to me, and you can tell me where I am going wrong with this statement, that we have 7 bodies, each corresponding to one of the 7 colors of the spectrum, and that energy that creates these 7 bodies is a universal type of energy that streams into our planetary environment and comes in through 7 energy centers that we have called chakras to develop and perfect these bodies, and this is. Each of these bodies is somehow related to the mental configuration that we have, and the perfection of each of these bodies, and the total in streaming, you might say, of this energy is a function of this mental configuration, and through this mental configuration we may block, to some extent, the instreamings of energy that create each of these 7 bodies. Could you comment on where I am wrong, and correct me in this that I have stated? Ra. I am Ra. Your statement is substantially correct. To use the term mental configuration is to oversimplify the manners of blockage of instreaming which occur in your density. The mind complex has a relationship to the spirit and body complexes which is not fixed. Thus blockages may occur betwixt spirit and mind, or body and mind, upon many different levels. We reiterate that each energy center has 7 subcolors, let us say, for convenience. Thus spiritual mental blockages combined with mental bodily blockages may affect each of the energy centers in several differing ways. Thus you may see the subtle nature of the balancing and evolutionary process. Questioner. I am unsure as to whether this will provide an avenue of questioning or not that will be fruitful. However, I will ask this question, since it seemed to me that there is possibly a connection here. On the back of the book, Secrets of the Great Pyramid, there are several reproductions of Egyptian drawings, or works, some showing birds flying over horizontal entities. Could you tell me what this is, and if it has any relationship to Ra? Ra. I am Ra. These drawings of which you speak are some of many which distort the teaching of our perception of death as the gateway to further experience. The distortions concern those considerations of specific nature as to processes of the so-called dead mind-body-spirit complex. This may be termed, in your philosophy, the distortion of Gnosticism. That is, the belief that one may achieve knowledge and a proper position by means of carefully perceived and accentuated movements, concepts, and symbols. In fact, the process of the physical death is, as we have described before, one in which there is aid available, and the only need at death is the releasing of that entity from its body by those around it and the praising of the process by those who grieve. By these means may the mind-body-spirit which has experienced physical death be aided, not by the various perceptions of careful and repeated rituals. Questioner. You spoke at an earlier time of rotational speeds of energy centers. Am I correct in assuming that this is a function of the blockage of the energy center, and when the less blocked it is, the higher speed of rotation, then indicating greater energy in streaming? Ra. I am Ra. You are partially correct. In the first 3 energy centers, a full unblocking of this energy will create speeds of rotation. As the entity develops the higher energy centers, however, these centers will then begin to express their nature by forming crystal structures. This is the higher or more balanced form of activation of energy centers, as the space-time nature of this energy is transmuted to the time-space nature of regularization and balancing.